Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, and you're listening to the Excelsior Journeys with George Soroy, presented by the Right Pack Radio Podcasting Network. Prepare to ignite.
Is there a burning desire within to share your creativity with the rest of the world? Do you insist on pursuing your passion by any means necessary? Then you are on an Excelsior journey, and you are not alone. Welcome back to Excelsior Journeys. My name is George Soroy. So glad that you guys could be here to share this great discussion with us. I also hope you have been able to listen to the Right Pack Radio podcast, which is available every Sunday. There's a new episode to download every Sunday, and you'll be able to hear a great roundtable discussion with a lot of different authors from the St. Louis region. Discussing things from structure to marketing to pop culture references. It's a great show. It's a whole lot of fun to listen to. And a big thanks to Right Pack Radio for making Excelsior Journeys part of the Right Pack Radio Podcasting Network. It has been proven many times over that you never know who is going to come into your life and change it for the better. That has been proven to me several times over when I accepted a job offer to work at a company called Hadassah, which is the Women's Zionist Organization of America, back in 2004. During that time, I was looking for a new admin position, and while I was there, I wound up meeting and befriending a whole slew of different people that were very much on the same journey as I was in their own way, and a lot of different authors, a lot of different storytellers, and just really wonderful people all around. And one of those people that came into my life actually came pretty late into my time at Hadassah in 2007, when I started chatting with and befriending a woman named Rebecca Jaycox, who it turns out is just as much of an author as I am. And she has become one of my best friends. She has also become a very prolific editor in addition to her writing, where she is constantly taking on new clients and literally killing them with kindness, because she is very much the advocate of tough love. But at the same time, everything that she has done, including both Excelsior and Ever Upward, has helped to make these manuscripts better. I can definitely say that is the case with both of my books, because neither one would be anywhere near where they are if it weren't for the editing skills of Rebecca Jaycox. So with National Novel Writing Month having passed us by, this is a great way to kind of segue into the discussion of what comes next after you have done your first draft. I have stated many times that you should definitely not start just thinking about cleaning it up and then putting it out there on Amazon for all the world to see. That is not the way to do things, and I know that my guest today will definitely agree with me on that. So it is my pleasure to introduce to you my guest for this week, author, editor, and all-around awesome person, Rebecca Jaycox. How are you, my friend?
Hi, love. I just want to let you know that I was smiling during your introduction, and we are on a radio show, so you couldn't see it.
Oh, okay.
But I had a huge smile on my face. You said some very kind words, and I appreciate them.
Well, it just so happens it's been true, so it works out well, I think. So,
thank you. So you're right. It was National Novel Writing Month, and people make mistakes thinking that, the first draft, they're going to write it, they're going to go through it once, and they're going to publish it. And I'm here to tell you all, unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. You usually need, typically, I would say at least 4 drafts before you produce anything that is ready to publish. And the process, at least for me, and I'm sure it's for you too, George. In fact, my first book had 6 drafts. So I'm at the point now where I'm not a newbie anymore, and because I'm an editor, I write, my first drafts look like third drafts. most people's don't. So I had an editor friend look at my work and said, "This can't be a first draft." And I said, "That's just how I write." But most people don't do that.
Yeah.
Because they're not crazy editors who are analyzing every word they write on the page. But for my advice for first-time authors is, do that fourth draft. And when you're done, if you have some colleagues that you respect, writers that respect, who will help you, have them beta read for you and point out errors in your manuscript, continuity issues, plot issues that you wouldn't recognize because you're so close to your work. And then go and find an editor who matches you. You need to find somebody you're comfortable with. They should provide a free sample for you. They should edit at least a 2K sample of your work for you for free so you can understand the editing process, who you're hiring, if you're a good match. A good editor is worth their weight in gold, at least to me.
Yeah.
Because they're your partner. They're the one who's going to be honest with you and tell you what's going on, what's wrong. And their whole job is to improve your writing. It should be a partnership where you can grow with your editor. A lot of my first time clients I've had repeatedly, I can see that their writing's grown because once I point out mistakes or bad habits, by the time I get a third book, they've started eliminating those. And it's a really nice thing for me to see.
I really hope that winds up being the case with my third book in the Excelsior series with Greater Glory when that is finally finished and sent over to you, because I've gone through the mill with you twice, and it's like going to the gym, like as you're doing it, you're just like, but then at the end of it all, and you can see the changes that are being made. Then all of a sudden you become like almost like addicted to it. You're just like, yes, like this is working. Let me keep getting better, with everything I'm doing. And I still, I remember feeling incredibly stung when you told me that the first, I would say, 10-20% or so of Ever Upward wasn't working. And
I'm sorry about that.
it stung, but at the same time, you just have to man up and realize and kind of go through it, because a lot of times we as authors, we're looking at our manuscripts through rose-colored glasses. What wound up happening with that was once those glasses came off and I looked through it again and I realized, wow, this really is kind of reading like a travelogue at this point. So let me, what can I do to kind of keep things going? Because what you were doing was great, because it was pointing out something that I was trying to do that was against my own instincts. I was trying to do something else to try to broaden my own horizons as an author, and it wound up feeling forced. And you called me out on that, and I was grateful that you did, because I am very impatient when it comes to storytelling. I want to just get right to it. And with this first, 20% and everything, I was taking a little stroll around this whole planet before the plot really kicked in. So I'm glad that you did that, because you allowed me to figure out how to take that whole travelogue, condense it into one chapter, and then move on with the story itself. And it wound up allowing me to introduce all these, a couple of other characters that I wound up, working into the overall story, and it wound up making things just better and better and better. So, I am definitely an advocate of working with an editor, especially one of your caliber.
Oh, thank you. I nailed you pretty hard for that. I remember.
Yes, you did.
And
yet we're still here. So,
And yet we're still here. We're still friends.
Exactly. So, enough about what you've done for me, which is, more than I could, more than I could say. But, what, you got something in the works for you. So talk to us a little bit about what's going on with your work in progress.
Okay, so I have written, it will be a trilogy, and it's called the Inheritance series. And I'm working on the last book in the trilogy called The Other War. The first two books are The Other Inheritance and The Other Queen. So I'm working on The Other War right now. I am also with Elloris Publishing. I'm their editor-in-chief, and Jeff, the director, likes my work. So he also published for me when I was looking for a home, when Rocking Horse Publishing closed. And I just have to give a shout out to Jeff because he's incredibly hardworking. He takes care of us very well. And if you are an author looking for a small press, there are certain things you want to look for and certain things you need to avoid. And the first thing is when you're signing with a small press, and George, you can back me up on this.
Mm-hmm.
You want somebody who this is their life. It's not a side hobby. It's not a second job. They're trying to make this into a real business. And when I first met with Jeff, just to talk about being his editor-in-chief, and I'm sorry, I'm going off on a separate tangent here.
Mm-hmm.
I was impressed that he had a business plan. He had a budget for advertising. He knew exactly what he wanted to do in terms of quality covers, and then the fact that he hired me at all and had a system. A lot of small presses don't do that, and even though he does a lot on his own, he does hire out the work that he needs to do, and he does support us in terms of marketing and those kind of things. So if you, dear authors, are looking for a small press, it's sort of your kind of a first step into before an agent, or you just don't want an agent and you'd rather publish directly and work with somebody, these are the things you need to look for. You need to look for what are they going to do for you with markets, covers, editing. If anybody wants you to pay for something you run, that's not a small press, it's a vanity press.
Absolutely.
No press should ask you to pay for anything. They are here to get your work and make money off of you. So you're the client. But I think our experience, and George can back me up, has been really great.
It really
with
has been.
Elloris.
And, I can't say enough good things about Jeff Collier and Elloris Publishing, especially considering everything that's happened for Excelsior this week, because I would not have gotten a BookBub promotion if Jeff hadn't pulled the trigger on it and made it happen. And seeing the kind of sales numbers has been a huge eye opener, and it's been just a wonderful thing. Just seeing that book get as high as it did. It peaked at 219 in the entire Kindle bookstore.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and when the Other Inheritance did pretty well with that as well, didn't it? Like it's. I
had a great run in March and April and the end of February where we didn't do any special advertising.
It just suddenly took off. All of a sudden, it
just suddenly took off. Like fun facts for authors, especially if you're a first time author, you're going to have to learn all about AMS ads, which are Amazon ads, Facebook ads, those kind of things. So for us, our publisher runs Amazon ads daily, and for some reason, I don't know, the stars aligned, and my book just started selling. I think I want to say like 1,500 in the entire store, and like number one in all my categories for a while, which was really amazing.
Yeah.
And those are the kind of numbers you want to see. So it was great, and I think I'm having a little bit of a lull in sales right now, but part of that is my fault. As you know, George, people want to read a complete series.
Yes.
So they don't have
that I definitely know. And I feel like once I finally get in gear with Greater Glory, then hopefully we'll start seeing some real action with Ever Upward has the attraction that Ever Upward got as a result of Excelsior's sales on BookBub and all the different other promotions that Jeff had been putting together for this week. It's just been mind blowing, and seeing that some people have actually taken a chance with Ever Upward, buying it at full price, was a huge bonus. That also has me feeling like slightly intimidated because, as you know, this is going to be part 3 of my trilogy. And
yes,
trilogies are hard to wrap up, especially when
they are hard,
especially when you've taken such delight of pushing your characters into as deep a hole as possible. And with that second one.
Well, my character's in a really bad place. Sorry, I circumvented the whole. What are you working on now?
That's okay.
My character's in a really dark place to start with the third book. I'm afraid to give spoilers in case anybody actually wants to read the first two. But
Well,
she's in a bad place.
before we go into the details, because we are going to definitely touch on the details when you talk about how the other inheritance came to be. Let's take a little trip back to the beginning of it all. One of the things that I like to discuss on this show is what that spark was. Everyone kind of has that one defining moment where they just kind of see something or they read something or they experience something and they point in that direction and say, that's what I want to do. So what was that
with me?
Yeah.
I'm an only kid, so if you're an only child, you kind of have to entertain yourself, right? And so I also lived in a very rural community, and I always had a big imagination. So I've been writing stories since I was 10. You know, I went on pirate adventures with my cat. So and then I saw Star Wars when I was young, and of course it's already been out in the theaters because I'm not that old. But
it's
I saw
still,
it, and
no matter what, like when you first see that movie,
it's iconic.
That's a game changer right there,
It's a game changer. So I thought, I want to write worlds. I want to write I want to make and create and write in other worlds. And so that's what I did. So I wrote in high school. I didn't get to write so much in college because I was a journalism major. And then finally, I want to say 27, I started writing, maybe 28. I started writing The Other Inheritance in a real way. And I took writing classes with Media Bistro in New York City. I don't know if you ever did that, George, while you were here.
I've heard of it. And I attended a Media Bistro party. I remember.
Okay.
There was I think it was from the I think it was Ken Owlett's book Googled. But there was like a launch that was going on for him, and I was able to I was definitely able to exchange, some business cards with some people. I kind of wish nowadays that I had that opportunity to do that again, because I feel like I would be much more composed and definitely much more knowing what I'm doing when it comes to writing, when it comes to everything that I have going on right now. I feel like that would have been more useful for me back then, if I knew then what I know now. But like, what can you do?
What can you do?
Yeah. So Media Bistro, what was that like for you?
Well, it was great because I took 3 classes with the same author. And even though she was a great instructor, but she probably wasn't the best instructor for me because she wrote contemporary women's fiction and I wrote, fantasy and young adult fantasy. And I remember when I would show my pages, because that's what our job was. We had to show 10 pages a week and then critique our classes pages, which was great. It gives you real critical feedback that you need. So, but she would always tell me, but this is, YA, you can't do this. This seems too adult. And I was like, have you ever read The Hunger Games? Lord of the Flies, anyone?
Yeah.
You can do a lot in YA. In fact, at that time, YA fantasy was really peaking and becoming popular with adults as well because it was doing things that adult fantasy wasn't doing.
Yeah.
So, but it was a good experience because I met a lot of great people that I still talk to. And it really made you develop that critical thinking skill set when you have to turn it to your own work. You can't really look at your work. You have to give up your pride when you start editing yourself. And when I first shopped The Other Inheritance to agents, I did a pitch slam. And I had like 4 people who were interested. And this one agent was really nice and worked with me. And it started off, I think The Other Inheritance was 95,000 words, and I cut it down to 70.
Wow.
And my experience was, I need all of this. I didn't need all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the agents was kind enough to tell me what I needed to do, and I fixed it. And she said, "Well, it's good, but it's still not strong enough." But I really took that advice to heart, and I cut, those 25,000 words, and it's a much better book. And by the time I had chopped it to Robin at Rocking Horse, had gone through 6 versions, so it was as good as it was going to get. But I think that's what people have to realize when you're writing, especially when you're writing your first novel, because it's your baby.
Yeah.
In a way that like your second isn't, and because then you're kind of like, yeah, cut.
Yeah.
So my motto is like, take the knife out, less is more.
Mm-hmm.
Do what you need to do. I mean, I didn't need this extra 25,000 words.
That's still like, I mean, it's a lot, like when you think about it, but at the same time, it's just like, once you realize what is expendable, then all of a sudden you just see like everything just start to quicken. All the, the pacing starts.
Pacing.
Yeah. All of a sudden you find like you're turning those pages a lot quicker than you used to.
Well, the funny thing is, in the midst of those cuts, I discovered a character who came literally like the next to the last draft, called Bryn, and he is my changeling, who he's an elf who turns into a wolf, but he's the series. Everybody who reads the book is sort of in love with him. He's their favorite character. Like especially women, they love him. And he didn't come in until the 5th draft when I was making serious cuts, but I thought there was a section I needed to beef up, and it was missing. Something was missing in the book.
Yeah.
And it was him. He was missing. But don't think that when you're cutting, sometimes that's when you get your best inspiration and your best ideas. He certainly made the book stronger, and everybody loves him. But you have to really look at what you're doing and decide. Everything has to be pacing and forward momentum, and if it doesn't service the story in some way, it doesn't belong.
It sounds like Bryn is very much in the same boat as Hadera, because in Excelsior, because she didn't come around until I think it was like either the 2nd or 3rd draft, and I cannot imagine this story without her. I really can't, because she was not one of the original characters that was part of this whole universe that I created back in 1992. She came in very, very late in the game, and just like the character, just like Hadera, she pretty much like grabbed the spotlight and said, "No, you're looking over at me." And she is somebody that, she's got a really interesting history too, because when I first created her, I first created him. He was this, he was very much like this kind of imposing character that was based on, it was like a mixture of The Undertaker from WWE and General Kale from Willow. That same sort of like brutish, kind of overpowering, like force to him. And when I pitched him to Jerry Ann Geller, who's my story editor, her thought was, can it be a woman? And I thought, yes, it can. And all of a sudden, like she just got changed up and became a character that, to quote Frank Langella's take on Skeletor, delicious, I would say.
Yeah,
I love that character so much, and I can't wait for you guys to see what I have in store for her for Greater Glory.
Well, I'm a weirdo, as you know, and as George's editor, I want she and Excelsior to have like some sort of affair. I feel that they have such crazy chemistry, and I know that was an accident, George, that you didn't mean for that to happen.
But I love that you see it. I just love that you see it. And the great thing is that there's a moment in Greater Glory where you're going to get what you want. That's all I'm going to say about it. But you're going to get what you want, in a very interesting way. So, yeah.
Yeah, I realize like I'm the weird shipper over here, being like, wait a minute,
Yeah.
something's happening.
But
Something's happening.
But that's the magic of writing is and the magic of storytelling is that you can come up with these kinds of things and the reader can take it to a different level. That's one of the
Yes.
things that I'm feeling like a little distressed about with what J.K. Rowling keeps doing with Harry Potter is she keeps on like, throwing in like all these different things that I understand it's her universe and everything, but at the same time, a lot of her readership is
You
kind
don't.
of readership as well. And so
Yeah.
it's almost like she's insisting on making these different changes just because it's her universe and she can do what she wants in it. So it's,
I've been ignoring these changes. I'm pretending they don't happen. They're not.
there you go.
They don't exist.
Yeah.
I won't have. I don't want to have tarnished Harry Potter memories.
Yep.
So I usually kind of ignore all of that. I'm going to be honest with you. Everybody's like, "Oh, that she wrote this," and I'm like, I don't really know if I'm interested. Not because I don't love it, but I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't think I'm interested.
Right.
So yeah. On the vein of writing again, so I was happy, and I'm sure this is the same for you, George. When I wrote The Other Queen,
Mm-hmm.
I improved as a writer. It's a better book. Not that I don't want you all to pick up my first book, The Other Inheritance, because you have to read The Other Queen, but The Other Queen is a better book.
Yeah.
Like sometimes you're a lot of times when people write that second book, it's not as good as the first. Unless it's like The Empire Strikes Back, and then that's kind of what you want to write, right? You want to write The Empire Strikes Back. It's a better book, so I was really excited that I improved as a storyteller.
Mm-hmm.
And from what Jeff has seen of my third book, The Other War, he told me it's the best thing I've written.
Wow, that's talk about a great boost of confidence to really get you going, really get you in gear. And I've seen that on your posts lately. I'm just seeing like that.
Yeah.
Getting higher and higher and higher, and you're getting, like I can see in your posts the excitement that's coming out of you, and that's a great feeling to have. Once you know you got it, and you keep going and everything, it's just getting faster and faster. You're getting more and more. And speaking of The Empire Strikes Back, it's funny you should say that because during the time when I was talking to you about Ever Upward, and the different things that I had in mind for it, which are still there. Like it was just a matter of tweaking how they come into play. But there are certain things that I was saying that I really was fashioned. I was really kind of paying attention to the Matrix Reloaded as my point of reference because just like like you're a weirdo, you like to see Hadera and Excelsior get it on. I'm a weirdo. I think The Matrix Reloaded is the best one out of the trilogy. And so, like that, I've gotten many weird looks from that, like on.
You're getting a weird look right now. You just can't see it, but go ahead.
So, like that was something that I always really kind of, was keeping an eye on. That was something that I always, wanted to use as a template, even though, yeah, I'm aware that there are certain faults that are in there, but at the same time, I feel like there's enough in there, and where I can appreciate where they were going with it. Now, is it all satisfied in the Matrix Revolutions? Of course not. But there was definitely, I feel like there were enough chances taken in the Matrix Reloaded. I think it was a matter for me. It was, I couldn't stop watching it. I wanted to get what they were doing. And it was because of that made it. It's like the repeated viewings really kind of made it my favorite one. The first one, I was able to get pretty much right from the start. So, but when it comes to that second one, it was a matter of putting the work in. But then, like as soon as I told you that, you were just like, try thinking of The Empire Strikes Back instead. So that definitely helped because I was able to kind of take the best things that I liked from Matrix Reloaded and work it in with elements of The Empire Strikes Back and put them together. And just like you, like with The Other Queen, I think Ever Upward is a better book than the first Excelsior.
I think so too.
Yeah,
I think
and
it is.
I love the first Excelsior, especially considering that this is the third edition of it. And I'm glad that this is the one that got the book club promotion. So everyone is getting the better version out of all of them.
I did whip that in shape for you.
Yeah,
I did.
Mm-hmm.
I'm proud of you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Today's show is brought to you by Audible. Audible is offering our listeners a free audiobook with a 30-day trial membership. If you've never been an Audible customer and want to see what they offer, just go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and browse the unmatched selection of audio programs. Download a title for free and start listening. It's that easy. Why Audible? Audible content includes an unmatched selection of audiobooks, original audio shows, news, comedy, and more from the leading audiobook publishers, broadcasters, and entertainers. And with this free 30-day trial, you'll have your pick of it all. You can hear books of all genres narrated by Jim Dale, Stephen Fry, Will Patton, Alex Hyde White, Jeff Brick, Neil Shaw, William Demerit, and even a few by me, George Soroy. So go to www.audibletrial.com/Excelsior Journeys and start your own 30-day journey with Audible today.
So tell our readers a little bit about The Other Inheritance as a story. Where did your inspiration come from that? What happened, and what is the basic story that's going to get people to buy it as they should?
As they should. I think it's a good book. So I'm always sort of fascinated with that coming of age story, and I think that for me, it's important to tell a story about a young woman who's strong and who has goals and who's and I'm sorry for anybody who loved Twilight, but it really rubbed me the wrong way, and I didn't finish with them all, so forgive me, but the concept of a 17-year-old basing her whole life around a boy, and this sort of, that's it, kind of rubbed me the wrong way. So I wanted to create a character that was sort of the anti that, who was focused on her future in college, and you know, she had a plan, and Reggie is kind of based on, of course, she has a little bit of me in there because all our characters have a little bit of us, right?
Of course.
But she's sort of based on a friend I had in high school, just on the outside of her life. And so Reggie is 17. Her mother is an alcoholic, so she's basically the parent in the relationship. Her father went missing when she was really young, and her mom is not a bad person, but she just broke down after her father disappeared. And so Reggie discovers through these dreams she keeps having with this man named Reese that her father wasn't from our reality. And so I named our reality The Real. Her father is from an alternate reality called The Other. And she's inherited his magical abilities, and her father's killer is realized that she's alive, and now he wants to come for her. And so to save her mother and her best friend, Reggie goes into The Other and tries to find this man from her dreams who's her guardian, so he can teach her about her magic and protect her from her father's killer. And the world I built is very interesting because when people hear about this, they think I do a traditional fantasy world, which, George, that's not true.
Right.
I created it's a portal fantasy, but I created a world that is very modern, except that everything is run by magic. Magic fuels everything. And I made it have steampunk elements, airships and crazy inventions, but instead of running off of steam, everything's run by magic and spells. And so that's kind of the world that she's thrown into. She's traveling with a young man, a handsome young man who's her love interest, who may or may not be trustworthy. And they have a crazy adventure trying to get across this unknown world to get to her guardian. So that's sort of the first book. And the interesting thing is, she has a best friend in her first book who becomes, he's in the first book, but not a lot, but enough where you'd be interested in him. And by the third book, he's become my favorite character to write. He's sort of the everyman that you root for.
Yeah.
Because he's so out of his element in this world, and he's the only person who doesn't have magic, and he's just trying to get it done, being completely having no advantages. He's completely disadvantaged,
Right. Which is a great side character and everything for people who say, like, if they're reading this and they don't 100% identify with Reggie, at least they can identify with him. So
they completely identify with him. He's sort of like the everyman when you're reading. You're like, oh, poor John. Like, what has he gotten himself into?
Right.
And I actually ended up pairing him a little bit with Bryn in the third book. They have their own side adventure.
Nice.
Well, it's not so much of an adventure as a survival thing, but they're good characters to have together. They're fun to write, and John's sort of in awe of Bryn because, he's like, oh, Bryn was great, but he also could gut you in under 6 seconds, so, like, thank God he's on my side.
Right.
But so I think, if you like adventure, if you like an intricate sort of world building in a new world, you like steampunk, but I coined it as magic punk. You like strong, feisty heroines, you like good looking guys. It's a touch of romance. That's not the main focus. Just a lot of action and adventure and sort of intrigue. I think, what did you describe it as? You're going, it's like Dorothy entering Oz. I think that's what your review said.
I'd say it's a mixture of, it's definitely has like elements of Wizard of Oz, but also with Alice in Wonderland, cause
a little bit, yeah.
It's got such a stark contrast to our world, which
right.
And it's, the fun of it really is discovering that world. And, that's one of the stronger, that I would say is definitely one of the stronger elements of your writing is that world building. Like you want to go in there because you can see every detail as it appears.
Well, thank you.
That's something that I struggle with, and I'm glad to see that, I'm so glad to see that that there are a lot of authors out there that do this really well. I think you do it really well. I think Debbie Mamber Kupfer's Pause series. I think it her world.
Oh yeah, it's really thought out.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Her world building is amazing, and it's something that I really hope that I'm looking forward to seeing like how everything develops from there. But I really love like the that trip that you're taking us on in that book. So
well,
that's
I made
really have a blast with.
Well, the funny thing is, I was showing this. You remember Pam from PennCon? It was Susan Foss, editor.
Oh yeah.
I think, yeah. So I just showed her some of my stuff from the third book, and she was like, "Oh, I was expecting a traditional fantasy world. This is really modern. Like, I want to know what's happening because it is modern. They're not traveling with horses. It's not like sword and sorcery. There's magic, but it's a different thing. But I make that joke in the very first book, so people kind of know what they're getting into. When Reggie asks her love interest Asher, like, "Am I going to have to learn to ride a horse?" And he looks at her like she's insane.
Yeah.
Why would you have to learn to ride a horse?
Right.
We're gonna take an airship. We're gonna get online and get a ticket. Like, what are you smoking? Like, you know what I mean? No. So you kind of know that right away you're going into a place it's familiar in the fact that at least there's sort of like a modern system in place, but it's completely unfamiliar in any other way. But you don't feel like, you don't go into a horse and wagon and like traditional fantasy sort of situation. Even though there are traditional fantasy elements, it's in a much more modern way.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Oh, it does. It does.
So
when
but,
I'm sorry. Yeah, keep going.
No. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So you go through the 6 drafts, and you submit it to Robin Tidwell at Rocking Horse Publishing. She takes it, and she launches it under her under her catalog. And
right.
About, what was it, like about 2 years after that? Is that when Rocking Horse closed down?
Yes, I think so.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 2 years passes. Robin makes a decision to close up shop, and we both, both of our contracts, she allows, our contracts to end, like very, she's, very gracious, and as I've said, like on the show before, I owe a whole lot to Robin Tidwell. She's, given me opportunities that I never thought possible, that I never thought that I would want to take. Especially
Right.
being involved with the Missouri Writers Guild as much as I still am. But yeah, I definitely owe her, like a huge debt of gratitude, for that.
Right.
But then, right around the time when, right at the time when Rocking Horse was wrapping up, that's when you put the little bug in my ear to reach out to Aloris Publishing. Now, how did you get involved with Aloris?
Well, this is interesting. So Jeff is one of Jeff Collier is one of one of our writing groups, YA author, young adult author rendezvous.
Yep.
And he just had made inquiries about an editor, and I had started my business in June of 2016. I started my own business, which is Rebecca Jaycox, Slayer of Adverbs. You can find me on Facebook if you need an editor. Sorry, I had to plug myself.
Of course.
So Jeff was just asking around in these groups, and Patrick Hodges, who created that group, I believe, said, "Oh, Rebecca has her own business." So Jeff and I started talking, and he told me what he wanted to do, his business plan, his designer, what are his goals were. And I was impressed because it wasn't a side business for him. It wasn't a hobby. This is going to be his source of income. So this is what, I don't work anymore. I just want to do this. So I said, okay, well, this is fun to get on the ground floor.
Oh yeah.
So, I agreed to be his editor, and he said, well, I also, which is not done, by the way, in small presses, everyone. I just want to let you know. He said, I'm also going to give a small advance. Wow, that's unheard. I mean, he was being very serious. He wanted to get really good people. He wanted to produce a quality product. So, I said, great. I think I might have edited something from him. I don't know. It's been a while. He liked what I did. He hired me, and I told him my situation, that the current publisher I was with is closing out. I like what he was doing. I would love to send him my manuscript. No hard feelings if he didn't think it was right for him, but I wanted to try. And so he read it. He liked it. He offered me a contract. And in fact, I told my other writing friend, who we both love dearly, Michelle Bryan, who's very talented, about him too. And he loved her books. And then I mentioned you as well. I said, and I have a friend, George. He was my colleague. Tell me what you think. And so that's how I brought you on.
Yep.
That way. I was so happy that I found a home with Jeff. He redid my first cover. It's beautiful. I loved my cover. I love your covers.
Me too.
So and then I finished my second book, and I did a launch at Books of Wonder, which was great, in New York City. I had a lot of people, and I did a nice launch in Missouri as well. And I sold out my launch in Missouri, so that was fun. No, it's always good. It's always good. I like to go to schools. I'm from a very small town, so one of my teachers still works there in middle school, so I visit the 8th grade classes. And they ask me questions about writing or just following your dreams, So it's good to tell kids that, especially when you're from a small town, because sometimes you feel trapped. So it's good for me to go to those kids and say, you can do anything that you want to do. The only person who's standing in your way is you.
Yeah, and
So
it really is something great to be able to not only to be able to speak to kids and everything, but to be able to kind of hold up your book and and show them that this can happen if they
exactly
want it, if they want it hard enough, and seeing their eyes widen the way they do, and it's great. It's like it really is just an amazing feeling.
Well, I try to tell them that nobody wants to work hard, right? But if you get what you want, you work hard. That's it. Yeah. There's no escaping it. But I said, look, your parents might tell you you can't do it. So and so might tell you can't do this. Oh, you're from here, you can't do anything. You can do whatever you want, but you have to make it happen.
Right.
Nobody's going to come and hand it to you.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're doing what you love to do, if you're able to chase a passion, then it's not even going to feel like work because you're fulfilling a dream.
Exactly. So that's always fun. But I found a home with Daphne Lewis, and it's been great. I've got to meet some other authors that are fantastic. As the editor-in-chief, I've got to read some really fantastic work. And I have to say, and I'm going to brag a little about myself, everybody I've worked with who I've edited for at Loris have all thanked me profusely.
Yes.
And said, you've done such a great job. Thank you so much. You included. No, you're a great advocate for me. I really, really appreciate it. But it's so nice to have what you do appreciated, because I am harsh. I'm never cruel. I want to point that out to everybody, but I'm very honest.
Yeah.
And as a writer, you have to understand that you're a professional and you want somebody to be honest with you. If you're hiring somebody who's telling you what you want to hear, you're not hiring a real person.
Right. And
it's not a professional.
Like what I've said before, I said it on Right Pack Radio, and I probably said it on one of the episodes here, and I'll say it again. It's a lot cheaper to make your changes, before the book comes out, than buying a whole bunch of plane tickets so you can stand behind your readers and say, this is what I meant to say.
Yeah.
So
yeah, you don't get that chance. And dear authors who want to argue with people on Goodreads, tell them what they meant. Don't do that.
Right.
That's a bad idea.
Do not engage, especially on Goodreads. That place is a cesspool.
Don't feel the need to engage with people. It's a bad idea. But the thing is, I've had clients say, well, this is what I meant. And I said, well, that's great, but that doesn't come off the page.
Yeah.
So you can mean whatever, but if I'm not understanding that, well, it doesn't do you much good.
Right. You know how to engage with your readers. You write a book, you put it out there, and they buy it. And they're investing in your words. And if your message is not coming across, they're going to let you know, and you just kind of have to suck it up and move on from that. But you can't just say like, well, this is what I meant, because they can't just. It's not like they can just reread it and say, oh, I get it. It's going to be, well, it didn't come across. So. And
then they're not going to pick up your second book.
Right. Yeah. Especially if you're going to engage them and say that, no, it's your fault for missing what, the message that I had for you. It's like, that's not how any of this works.
Well, that's why I always tell people. Also, I just want to let everyone know too, a beta reader is not an editor. They both have different roles. They're both important roles, but don't think just because you went through a beta reader, you don't need an editor.
Right.
I've had friends ask me to beta read and I refuse because I'm an editor and I just can't do it.
Yeah.
I will end up editing your book, and no offense to anybody, I don't have time for that. Like, I don't have time to do that for free.
Yeah.
But beta readers, they are supposed to read it as a reader does, meaning I don't understand this. This didn't make sense to me. I mean, they're not going to go in with the depth that I do. They're not going to take like a scalpel,
right,
and start, dissecting layers. But their job is to tell you, like, this doesn't make sense. Cassie is like this one time, but then she said something totally different. I mean, their job is to give you a general sense, and I want to tell people, if you have 4 beta readers and they all have different opinions, I would take those with a grain of salt. But if all 4 people say this doesn't make sense, I don't like this is when you need to listen to people.
Yeah.
If it's a general consensus, then that probably means something's wrong and your words aren't getting across to your reader.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my thing with beta readers. But when you hire an editor, of course it's your work, and if you don't want to change it, don't change it. I don't ever go in and rewrite a book for you. You know that, George.
Yeah.
That's not my job. I don't go in, I'm not in there rewriting paragraphs for you.
Mm-hmm.
My job is to make suggestions about plot and character consistency. And if the writing is sloppy or needs to be tightened up, I point that out. I'll highlight it.
Yeah.
And I will highlight repetitive phrases or just delete them after. If you do it enough, I just delete them and you see exactly what I'm deleting. But
Mm-hmm.
it's not our job to rewrite your words for you, but it is our job to make you better.
Yes.
That's our job.
Yeah. And that's something that that too many people just either take for granted or don't even realize, that this is the job, and just like with writing, at its best, it is a job. Like you are getting paid to do this service, just like
Yep.
authors are getting paid to provide this form of escapism, like whatever story that provide a story that they want to tell, or in some cases have to tell. But this
Exactly.
is this is the as Hyman Roth said in Godfather 2, this is the business we've chosen. And that's basically like where we are, like as authors, as editors, in Jeff's case as a publisher. And we're gonna be speaking with him later on this month.
Great.
So yeah, this whole month is gonna be a blast, because we're gonna be speaking with we're speaking with an editor right now. We're gonna be speaking with agents. We're gonna be speaking with a publisher, to wrap up this year. And there are also going to be some bonus episodes during this about that are going to feature some panels that were done over at Archon 42. So
Great.
yeah, this is going to be a great month. So as we wrap things up, what do you now you already said that we can find you on Facebook under Rebecca Jaycox, Slayer of Adverbs. Where else can potential clients find you?
Honestly, that's my business page. That's my business page. You can always send me an email at Rebecca Jaycox author at gmail.com.
And that's
Jaycox is
COX.
COX, exactly. You can always send me an email. I get a lot of messages on my Slayer of Adverbs page. I always respond. You can also find testimonials of satisfied clients there. I have a lot of them, and I'm always willing to give you references as well.
Yep.
Just remember, when you're hiring, I'd like to say, when you're hiring an editor, you have to find somebody who's professional and that you're comfortable with. That's the most important thing. And always, always get a sample of their work so you know what you're getting into. And if they don't want to provide you one, I would pass on that person.
Yes. Yeah. And as one of the authors at Aloris Publishing, I cannot recommend you more to everyone out there. By all means, please, reach out to Rebecca. And if it's not, with Rebecca, definitely work with an editor that you are comfortable working with, just like Rebecca said. So, this is, as I've said before, we are all in this together. Everyone is playing a part in making these books a reality. No man is an island. No woman is an island. No child is an island. We are all about getting the best possible work out there for you, the readers. And editors play such a crucial part in that. and Rebecca is one of the best that you'll be able to work with. So,
Well, thank you.
please keep that in mind, all of you, when you are writing. And since this is the end of National Novel Writing Month, you're looking back at your manuscript. It is not ready for publication.
No.
It is not for the public to see. It is only for you to see and for you to take another crack at before you let your beta readers, before you reach out to an editor. You have basically, what you've done in November is you've laid the foundation for your work. And a lot of other people are going to be coming into play to turn that foundation into a full house. And so,
yes.
So just like I've said many times before, writing may be a solitary job, but at the end of the day, we are not alone. There is a lot of components that go into this to make this work. And as an editor, Rebecca is a key part of that whole process. So,
thank you.
So please, all of you, please, get an editor, do your homework, and, writing, writing is only a part of getting getting your book out there for all the world to see. So, please keep that in mind, and please keep Rebecca Jaycox in mind when you are looking for.
Thank you.
And so, for Rebecca Jaycox, this is George Soroy saying to all of you, ever upward. We'll see you next week.